Welcome, beautiful people, to Camp Koji. My name is Joel. Thank you for joining me as I break down the biggest gaming news from the week that was on the only podcast you will ever need. On today's show, we're going to talk about Ubisoft's new investigation Xbox at Tokyo Game Show. We're going to finish it off with PlayStation's State of Play. But first, I wanted to talk real quick about The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. On the official YouTube channel, I have a review up for this game. But I wanted to touch on a few topics, starting with almost like the more interesting one, which is that this was one of the first Zelda games I got played in a while that I sort of felt was very open and ripe for criticism. And I think that when you read a lot of the reviews that were out there, it sort of feels like there's a lot of outlets and writers that are almost either A, afraid to be very critical with Nintendo's games, or B, so fueled by the nostalgia that they have for Nintendo that they can't reach sort of very obvious solutions or reach very obvious conclusions when they're playing this game. And it's interesting because when I was reading a lot of the reviews out there, I felt like the outlet that got closest to my feelings of the game was VGC, Video Games Chronicle, where I'm not saying that we had the same gripes when we played the game, but I think we had the same, what I would consider very objective criticisms about the game, criticisms about the combat, and a lot of it just really being about the fact that this is a game that is supposed to star Zelda, but at the same time it just feels like sort of every other Zelda game out there. And I don't know, like I'm kind of one of those people when it comes to reviewing a video game, I don't think that it's fair to review a video game in a complete bubble. I think that it is fair to review a video game and in that reflection, look at everything else that has come before it and sort of ask yourself that question. Have we really been dipping into this well one too many times? And it was weird to see a lot of reviews kind of bring up the very similar things, which is like, oh, the combat's actually not really that fun, just putting out a monster, having to watch them fight, and talking about the fact that the main system of the game, which are the echoes, is not really as deep as what we've seen from Nintendo in the past, because you're kind of going to the same echoes, and really the choice is between different types of beds more so than being reflected in limiting the amount of echoes that you have in order to make the puzzles inside the temples probably a little bit more interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to bring that up, that I don't know, maybe I'm alone in thinking that way, that it just felt like a lot of people were very afraid to judge Nintendo or even give this game a score that was very reflective of their review. Like it felt like a lot of the reviews were kind of critical to the point where it's like, okay, this probably is looking like maybe like a 7 on the scale, and all of a sudden you get to the end and it's like a 9. It's like, okay, that's kind of weird. And yeah, I think, my biggest gripe that I look at, and I brought it up in the review, was just the fact that this game really felt like it could have been a game starring Link, and there's just not really enough of a difference here to justify having Zelda as a protagonist. I really don't feel like she was doing too much. And someone had commented on the YouTube video talking about, I don't remember the exact comment, but something about like, sexism being in the game. And that really wasn't my angle when I was talking about, Zelda not really being able to save herself. I don't think it was really like this malicious intent of like, well, she's a girl, she can't, we have to keep her as the damsel in distress. I think it's more so this fear of giving this character her own agency, and maybe this fear that if there was direct combat given to this character, that it would be too close to Link. I don't know. I think to me it's more not really like, oh, it's really sexist the way that the powers are built around Zelda. I think it's just corny. It just makes for a lame character, you know? I didn't really look at it from explicitly from that perspective, just more from the perspective of how we've seen this character throughout the years in a lot of her iterations, and the fact that we've seen what she's capable of. So the fact that she has to transform into Link to do direct combat when we know the history of Sheik and all these other things, or seeing her, I feel in a more interesting light, even in something like Wind Waker when she was Tetra. I don't know. There's just a lot in that game that I feel was very disappointing, and I was just, I guess, not surprised, but just wanted to point out that I just find it just feels like there are a lot of outlets that are afraid to be very critical of this game, even though I feel like the criticism was warranted, because it's not a bad game, but I think there is something to be said here to have that conversation of, hey, this kind of wasn't, creative enough for what we're used to from Nintendo. I don't think that they raised that bar here, and I just find it weird how a lot of people were making these claims that this was a unique adventure. I was like, no, it wasn't. This was not a unique adventure, and Nintendo proved it when they talked about that this game started as a game starring Link, and Link was the one that was met try, and he was able to create these echoes. Their fear, though, was that if we can't completely take away the sword and shield, I guess they didn't want to do that, and if we give that to players, then they're not going to use the echoes. They're just going to go around using the sword and shield, which they are correct. But yeah, I don't know. I just want to bring that up before we move on to our first story. So our first story is about Ubisoft. They delayed the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows from November to February 14th, saying the developers needed more time to polish and refine the experience. The game will also now launch day one on Steam. Pre-orders will be refunded, and all future pre-orders will be granted the first expansion for free. This was crazy to hear. This is such an un-Ubisoft-like move that there is that part of me that hopes that maybe this is the spark where they try to reel themselves back in and understand the position that they're in right now, where they're not in this position to dictate unlimited growth to please their shareholders. And right now it's really about just holding on to the edge of that mountain so you don't fall off. And part of that is reining in a lot of these systems that you put in place to, in a sense, exploit your consumer. And it sort of looks like that's what they're doing, where even just a simple change as this game launching on Steam and making a declaration that this will be the first game, and for the foreseeable future, we will now launch every game day one on Steam, Epic Game Store. That's a change that was needed. Every single other publisher has reached the same conclusion. Every other publisher has tried to make their own launcher and failed. And once you do that, you just kind of gotta eat shit and understand that Steam is king, and you have to launch your game there day one in order to have that explosion of success at launch. But then this other part of, actually I'm going to talk about later on, but them reevaluating their season pass. But like I said, this is so un-Ubisoft-like. I think they've been so used to releasing a game day one and then sort of fixing it after. Not to the point that every single release is like completely broken. But when you look at Star Wars Outlaws, I think they knew that this game could have used a little bit of extra time, and I think they just looked at it as like, we'll release it and we'll fix it. And I think Ubisoft is now starting to realize that negative reviews and negative reception at launch really, really matters, because the bulk of a game sale usually exists within the first week and sometimes within the first month of sales. After that, it's rare that you're not, definitely never going to surpass that peak, but that's really where the bulk of your purchases go into. And launches now are in a sense a little bit more important than ever, because I think consumers are a little bit more patient to wait, especially because of the state that we're in the industry where so many games launch not hella broken, but kind of broken. There are a lot of people that are a little bit happier to wait for a sale, especially when it's accompanied by a game that is fixed. Like I'm sure there's a lot of people that are looking like at Star Wars Outlaws, for example, and understanding that it's become tradition that Ubisoft in November, Black Friday week, they usually drop the price of the game to like 30, $40, And I think you do have to make for a compelling launch. So I think it was obvious. I think that was probably not an easy, it couldn't have been an easy decision. And I think one of the other reasons why this is so un-Ubisoft-like is because of the fact that they sunk so much money into this launch date. They've been marketing this date for months now. That's a lot of money that's now lost. And their marketing has kind of been really bad. It feels like every time they try to do something, I read a post somewhere where someone's talking about how this is not, this makes no sense in terms of Japanese tradition for one reason or another. And I understand that Ubisoft has said like, hey, we're not going for historical accuracy, but I think there's a lot of things that you should be a little bit more careful of. And it looks like that's what a lot of the criticisms have been coming out in terms of the way this game is being marketed. Now, Yves Guillemot released an internal company email that was leaked to Insider Gaming. He confirms that Star Wars Outlaws didn't do as well as they hoped. Quote, initial sales proved softer than expected. And I think that this also informed or better informed them to delay this game, because they realized that when Star Wars Outlaws, first of all, a lot of the previews that were leading up to it, the footage that people were seeing, they were like, this game just doesn't actually look very good. It doesn't look very complete. And then initial reviews were really bad for either technical issues, the whole save issue that they had where a bunch of people that went into early access had their saves completely corrupted. And I think they were rewarded with like some cheap in-game currency or something weird. It was like something small. And then, you have the other issues with like stealth gameplay that a lot of people were complaining about. And that's really that was one of the factors that led to not only just a lower review score, but a lower word of mouth of a lot of people getting these initial reactions about the game and saying like, yeah, this looks like a game I could skip, or it looks like a game that I should wait until there's a sale, until they start to fix things. Now, he claims that development teams are already hard at work on focusing on save issues, stealth mechanics, more frequent quest checkpoints, and better NPC AI. So when stuff like this happens, it's almost like you're training your audience to say like, hey, if you wait, you actually get a better game, and there's a higher chance that you'll be able to get it cheaper if you were to just wait a little bit longer. Now, he also further explained Shadow's delay, saying, quote, this unusual decision at such an advanced stage is motivated by our desire to offer an optimal experience from launch on all platforms and various PC configurations, and to remove the small frictions we typically use to address in post-launch title updates. We'll also use the extra time to complement the experience with a few high-impact secondary quests that will bring even more memorable moments. Also, we are currently rethinking our Season Pass model for our upcoming games. For Assassin's Creed Shadows, all players will have access to the game at the same time. So another thing to me that is so un-Ubisoft-like, this early access pivot that we've seen with our industry over the last few years has been one of like the easiest check this box for extra revenue that we've seen in our industry in quite some time. Where, we're in this moment where people just want to play games as soon as possible. And there are more than enough consumers that will pay you that extra $30, $40 in order to do it. Like, could you imagine how much more money Grand Theft Auto 6 could make if they did an early access? It would be insane. the amount of extra money that they make. And, like a lot of people speculate that, Grand Theft Auto is not going to be $70, it's going to be $80 at launch. I personally don't think that's what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a $100 early access edition, essentially raising the price to $100. Because, like, what person that's interested in Grand Theft Auto is not going to pay the extra $30 to get early access? It could be 10-hour early access. people, and I'm also people, I include myself in that group, will be more than happy to give Take-Two and Rockstar those extra $30. Give me I'll pay $30 for 1 hour early access to that game. Like, that's easy money. So the fact that Ubisoft is saying, no, we're not going to do any of this early access stuff anymore, is like mind blowing. Like, these are decisions that are so un-Ubisoft. And I think that this is part of their thinking in terms to rein themselves back in, is thinking a little bit smaller, thinking a little bit more indie in terms of their size. They're not an indie. Obviously, they don't have the size of an indie. But almost when you think about those indies, is really about, am I satisfying my customers here? And I think that early access really is a tax on people with a fixed income. It really is. Let's be honest. Because as much as I say that, there are a lot of people that $70 does hurt. It's not as easy for them to just give $70 up for something. And $100 to play a video game hurts even more, or it's just impossible, right? Depending on their income. Like I said, if you are on a very strict fixed income. So it sort of is a tax against people that are on a fixed income. So I think it's great to see something like this, or even what we saw from Xbox with what they did with Call of Duty, where it's like, no, everyone gets the same edition. There's no early access garbage. There's no early betas here. Everyone gets access to it. They even opened up even more. You don't have to pre-order it. I mean, you could pre-order it, or you could get it if you're a Game Pass subscriber. So stuff like that, I think, is always positive, more than it would be negative. Because let's be honest, early access really is just a mechanic to generate some extra revenue. Now, another interesting part of the story is that Ubisoft's board has decided to launch an investigation. Quote, in the light of recent challenges, we acknowledge the need for greater efficiency while delighting players. As a result, beyond the first important short-term actions undertaken, the executive committee, under the supervision of the board of directors, is launching a review aimed at further improving our execution, notably in this player-centric approach, and accelerating our strategic path towards a higher performing model to the benefit of our stakeholders and shareholders. He also added, finally, let me address some of the polarized comments around Ubisoft lately. I want to reaffirm that we are an entertainment-first company creating games for the broadest possible audience, and our goal is not to push any specific agenda. We remain committed to creating games for fans and players that everyone can enjoy. This is like deja vu, a reflection of that Assassin's Creed apology that happened not too long ago, where I said the worst thing that you can do is acknowledge the existence of this group, because it's a very small group. It's a small group of people that care that Yasuke is one of the leads of this game. And the reason why it feels very loud, the reason why that feels like a vocal majority is actually simple. It's because the people who understand its absurdity can't keep their hands in their pockets. They have to retweet it. They have to talk about it in their YouTube channels in time. They have to retweet these really stupid takes when someone says woke, DEI, blah, 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 all this garbage. And all you guys are doing is making it feel louder than it actually is, when it's actually a minority. It really is a minority. It's a bunch of idiots that have locked themselves in a room. And instead of leaving them to their own devices, you guys decide to give them your own stage and your microphone to amplify whatever garbage comes out of their mouth. So Ubisoft acknowledging it makes it sound louder than it actually is, or a bigger move than it actually is. It really isn't. The majority of Assassin's Creed fans do not think that there's some sort of agenda by choosing Yasuke as the lead for this game. When you think about that period of time, at the end of the day, that will forever be a very interesting story. The fish, what is it? Fish out of water story is always a very interesting storytelling trope, and Yasuke will forever make for an interesting legend. And I think it's cool that a video game decided to talk about it. Also, AJ Investments, a hedge fund holding less than 1% of Ubisoft shares, claims to have the support of 10% of Ubisoft's shareholders to push for a sale of the company. The investigation, I think, is something that a lot of people can probably agree this company sorely, sorely needs. Obviously, it's the stock is at the lowest it's been in I think it's 10 years. It's a crazy number. Their stock has hit an all-time low, and it's been pretty obvious that the company has not been ran very well over the last decade, especially. It's just been mistake after mistake. I'm not going to sort of rehash the history here. I talked about it, I think it was last week's episode. And then I do have a video on the YouTube channel. I think it's called The Downfall of Ubisoft, or The Rise and Fall of Ubisoft, something like that, where I kind of go in depth and detail into the history of the company and kind of exactly, what happened to it. But yeah, I think that I've noticed a lot of people talking about sort of this, treating Ubisoft as like a chess piece, unfortunately, in the whole console war thing. And sometimes you see people saying, oh, PlayStation should buy this or Xbox should buy this. I said previously that I believe that if there was an acquisition coming, then it would probably just be Tencent that would just be picking up the rest of the company, because they already own a little bit of a chunk of it, and a chunk of of the Guimau's family. And I think that that's something that we would see. I don't think that it would go to an outside entity at this point in time. But at the end of the day, I understand there's a lot of people that look at this and they say, man, it's really, it's time for Ubisoft to fail. They're finally going to go bankrupt. But I don't think anyone should want that. I don't think any of us should want Ubisoft to fail. I think they have access to a lot of really great IP. When Ubisoft was great, they were great. They were, in their own sense, pioneers in a lot of the different types of games that we played. The main issue that I think that Ubisoft has sort of ran face first into is that they've done a really poor job of respecting the player's time, where you notice that a lot of their games have become very open world for no reason other than to be open world. They stuff their games, and they think that offering a game with just a bunch of hours and checklists and things to do makes for a great game. And it kind of doesn't. If you can't justify the reason for your game to be open world, then it probably shouldn't be open world. And that's how I look at even something like Star Wars Outlaws, where when I think about what Respawn did with Jedi, where they went with hubs, I think it was just a lot more interesting than it being open world. And then there's this pressure to fill the game to the brim with, once again, checklists and doing the same types of missions over and over again, and fetch quests and all this garbage, that I think that really, once again, just doesn't really respect their time, doesn't do a great job of pushing the story forward, or making, for better characters or learning more about characters. It's just a lot of BS stuff left and right. And then obviously they became this, the ambulance chasers. They were not chasing any trends. I'm sorry, they were not setting any trends at all. And they still remain firmly in that territory where you have this company that comes forward and says, we're betting a big chunk of the farm on this one thing called Assassin's Creed, and then nothing really like super interesting kind of comes out of it. They can't execute. There was a whole fiasco with Skull and Bones, which was just a stupid idea from the very, very beginning. Don't understand why you have the Assassin's Creed IP and then you decide to take the fans' favorite part of one of those Assassin's Creed, and instead of turning that into a dedicated Assassin's Creed, ship combat game, or like a direct sequel to Black Flag, you make the decision to try to create its own thing. It really is a series of poor decisions where even like something like Star Wars Outlaws, that was flawed from the very beginning in my eyes, because you're creating a game where the protagonist is not instantly interesting, where the moment you're playing a video game as a Jedi, that becomes instantly interesting because Jedi can't be directly replicated in any game. Like, yeah, I'm sure you can put an energy sword in another game or, force powers and stuff like that. But their combination and what they mean in the pop culture of Star Wars, it's very different when you're controlling a Jedi versus controlling what they did with Star Wars Outlaw, which was a mercenary, and create a character that I felt wasn't like, it didn't instantly grab you. And you're playing a character and a type of game that you feel like you've played before, where it's okay, stealth, smuggler, the thief kind of character. You have this feeling that you've already played this game before you ever even tried it, and then they stuff it once again into an open world environment, and I think you that's a recipe for not being able to instantly grab someone from the very beginning. So I think an investigation is obviously merited. I think that a lot of these decisions that they made with Assassin's Creed Shadows are typically not decisions that you would ever expect Ubisoft to make, which to me means that they actually are trending and moving in the right direction at this point in time, where I think that there has to be a moment where they look inward and realize either okay, what franchises do we have that we need to put more resources into where we can find success, and just basically start to streamline the amount of things that they're working on instead of trying to just throw darts at a wall. Like when we think about Ubisoft in the last few years, there's been so many games and Project Z and Project X and Y and all these other weird code names that they're putting out there, that they're canceled before they even see the light of day. And they're canceled for a very simple reason, because the games, as they're explained to us, are just ripoffs of something else. They're ripoff of Fortnite or ripoff of another game that's already out there, doing pretty well on the market. And I think they just have to get way more creative. Like I've said before, like Splinter Cell is the franchise that they hold right now that has a pretty easy path to success, because no game is really replicating what Splinter Cell has been able to bring to the market. Even something as simple as like what people would, consider its direct competitor, or which was Metal Gear Solid. You have the Snake Eater Delta, but we haven't really seen the new Metal Gear in a while. Kojima, he's working on his own stealth action called Fizzant right now, but there kind of is like a big hole in like stealth, espionage, that type of action game. There's not really anything like it, and there's been all these rumors about them, remaking Splinter Cell. I actually don't think that Splinter Cell should be remade. I think Splinter Cell should be rebooted at this point in time. If we find out when they finally decide to show Splinter Cell that they have claimed that they're still working on, and it really is just a remake of the original, and it's not positioned as like a reboot to reintroduce the franchise, for me, I'm finding a new Sam Fisher. I'm finding a new voice. Like, of course, Ironside has done an amazing job, but I'm looking at the next Sam Fisher. How do we bring this into the modern era? I'm looking at modern action films right now, the John Wicks, even, I like what they did with Splinter Cell Conviction, and it feeling a little bit like the Bourne Identity a little bit was that feeling you got from that game. And I'm looking to modernize Splinter Cell because that type of game just doesn't exist. And that game goes hand in hand with one of the more successful multiplayer experiences that we've ever seen in our industry. And it's a multiplayer type of game that doesn't really exist. I know it's like a fan-made sort of version, but a Spies versus Mercs will work so well. And that's really what they need. Like Beyond Good and Evil 2, just cancel it at this point. Like that IP just literally doesn't mean anything. You're basically going to have to build it up from scratch. No one knows what Beyond Good and Evil is. Doesn't matter if that was your favorite game. The majority of people do not know anything about that game. The IP it just doesn't hold water nowadays. You've worked on it for way too long, just let it go and move on to something else. But I think that the investigation hopefully proves fruitful. And I do still believe that this company needs a change of direction. I think it needs a change of leadership. I think there definitely needs to be a new CEO in there. I think Yves Guillemot has shown that he can't handle this. Like it's just really that simple. He can't handle it. And if a sale to Tencent means that these changes go through, then I think it's the direction that I would like to see as a fan of a few of their games. But you really need someone who's going to look at the current state of gaming, look at where we're trending, look at one of your most recent successes, which was like the Prince of Persia game, and understand that it's like, there is like a little bit of a fever here for smaller games, more unique experiences, us taking our traditional IP, the past, present, and building a new future for that IP. Like there should already be a sequel to that side-scrolling Prince of Persia already in the works. That was a really good one that they put out there. Our next story is about Xbox Tokyo Game Show. Now, this was interesting. I did not watch this live. I think it took place like at 6 a.m. I was actually up at that time, but I was busy. I was doing things, so I did not watch this live. This was weird. Like this Tokyo Game Show event from Xbox was weird because it felt like there was zero anticipation for it. No one even cared, and it happened. And obviously, it happened early in the morning here in on the East Coast. But yeah, it just felt like the buzz about it when you went online just wasn't really anyone really talking or caring about it. And it's understandable. I think more so because it was Xbox at Tokyo. It's Xbox is just they've never really had a good relationship with Japan in terms of the types of games that they're able to get for the system. So I don't think anyone was really expecting anything big. So we got a new Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater trailer that came out. I mean, looks fine. I don't know. I'm still one of those people that I'm still not really sold on this game. Personally, I don't know. Like I've played Snake Eater before, and I enjoyed the game. I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy it, but I just feel like there's not enough here. Like, it looks great, but I just feel like, okay, this looks like it's just kind of the same game, except it looks a little bit shinier, looks a little bit nicer. I've talked before about me not really being a big fan of Konami. I am going to commend them for staying true to Kojima's vision, even though it looks like they're still tiptoeing around saying his name, or giving him credit for the game that he created. And I feel like this is leading to them potentially wanting to reboot Metal Gear Solid in some way, shape, or form. I think they're trying to be very careful about it. I think they understand that you're going to be met with instant resistance the moment you announce a brand new Metal Gear or rebooting the franchise or something like that. And obviously Kojima is not going to be there. So I've said before, like I don't think I'd ever be interested in a Metal Gear where Kojima is not involved. But yeah, there was a new trailer. We still do not have a release date for this. Age of Mythology Retold Immortal Pillars expansion was announced. StarCraft Remastered and StarCraft 2 Campaign Collection join Game Pass PC and Ultimate on November 5th. No word on a console version. So this was interesting. These games are just coming to Game Pass. That was sort of the announcement. It was interesting that Actually, I'm kind of baffled by that, to be honest with you. Like this is like one of those top line decisions that if I'm Xbox, it's one of the first decisions I'm making when I walk through the Blizzard doors, which is why don't we have StarCraft on console? Why isn't this happening? So it's cool that it's coming to PC. There are these rumors that came directly from Jason Schreier that Blizzard is internally working on a new shooter that is set in the StarCraft universe, which feels like a sentence I've heard many times over the last decade. Obviously, a lot of people remember StarCraft Ghost. Jason Schreier is obviously a very, very strong source. So this seems to be like almost like a breadcrumb leading to that, just talking about StarCraft again, a franchise that I feel like Blizzard hasn't really addressed in quite some time. I think a new StarCraft would do really, really well, but no idea why they would create a shooter versus a new StarCraft. Not really sure. But trailer for a sim, like a cozy sim game called Tanuki from the team behind Curse to Golf. That looks kind of nice. Threads of Time was like a 2.5D JRPG. Looks amazing. Really, really cool art style on that one. We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie was added to Game Pass. We got a new look at Fragpunk, and they announced that a closed beta is coming October 10th. Quietly, Fragpunk has become one of Xbox's biggest sort of third-party acquisitions. I guess I won't go as far as to say acquisition, because we don't know if there's a formal relationship between them and Fragpunk. I guess at the least they're helping them with marketing the game. I'm not sure if there was a deal where they're paying this company to not put this game on PlayStation. Maybe they saw initial reactions and they've gone ahead and maybe struck a bit of a deal with them. But Fragpunk is definitely sort of a little bit on the same level as what we saw from Power World, where Power World was Japan. Fragpunk, I believe, is a Chinese developer, and it's really interesting to see both of these games releasing, and they're launching only on Xbox and PC. So that's really cool to see. It looks really cool. It looks really amazing. Once again, I think these are the types of games that I can't sit here and say that they're going to be met with instant success, but I think they give themselves a leg up because of the art style instantly grabs you, and then it just has a really, really interesting hook with these cards where they showed off. You could put a turtle on your back, and I think you could have a sword to deflect bullets from the front, a turtle behind you to protect you from getting shot in the back. Just a lot of really, really cool mechanics in this one. And it's funny because I was when I was watching this, all I thought about was like the hero design and the way the heroes instantly grab you versus the fortune looking at a game like Concord. It just shows you how imperative that part of this process is, that when you're creating something that is akin to a hero shooter, even if it doesn't play exactly like a hero shooter, you do have heroes in it that they instantly grab you. Like, I don't know what the character's name, but it was this guy with like these spider arms. He has a spider on his shoulder. Really, a lot of purple, like a long purple braid. Just really, really dope design that just looks great. Everything about Fragpunk. I love the art direction, sort of, street graffiti style that they're going for. Just really, really cool stuff. Synduality Echo of Ada. That's a PvPvE game that's coming January 24th. Fallout 76 is getting a Camp Pets update. Metaphor Refantasio has a demo that's already out. I believe it is out on all 3 platforms, PC, PlayStation, Xbox have them. So that looks cool. Makers of the Pixel Junk franchise announced a game called All You Need Is Help that is launching on Game Pass, so it's already out. That looks interesting. It's like a 4-player co-op. You play almost like Tetris shapes, and you try to work together to solve puzzles and stuff. Kind of looks like a cool little party game. We got a new look at Slitterhead that comes out November 8th. The Starbites Taste of Desert, a turn-based sci-fi RPG. That looks kind of neat. And then what was, I guess, one of the bigger announcements, Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Collection is finally coming to Xbox, actually released the same day. And then Trials of Mana and Legend of Mana were announced and added to Game Pass. So a couple of cool things here and there, but nothing that I would say is super crazy. I think there was also like a new look at Indiana Jones also in there at one point. So yeah, nothing super insane, nothing crazy. I think it's very indicative of, Xbox in Tokyo, not really, peanut butter and chocolate. I don't think there's really much to expect there. But I think it also just goes to show that this direction that Xbox is heading in, because of what they're doing, there is this interest for anything Xbox at this moment. Like, it's kind of one of those things where there's this expectation of, well, who cares what Xbox announces, because now they've opened this door that anything that they announce can eventually go to PlayStation. It just feels like the company is like, I don't want to say they're shrinking, but it just feels like they're getting quieter. Like there's not as much of an attention being paid to Xbox as something like PlayStation. Which leads to our next story, which is PlayStation's State of Play, which took place last week. Now, there also was a Death Stranding 2 Tokyo Game Show presentation, but there's not really much of a need to spend a lot of time on it. Unfortunately, there was not any gameplay shown, which I was very disappointed by. Obviously, it was in all Japanese, so I couldn't really understand. Kojima has been releasing some of those clips in English. If you want to see some of those cutscenes, they showed off a pretty cool looking photo mode, doing something that I don't think we've ever seen this in a game, where it doesn't actually sort of freeze the action. You're almost like taking photos of live models. So I thought that was really interesting, because then you there is a bit of an extra dynamic of the timing of the photo as the models are sort of moving around or whatever. I thought that was really neat. I thought that was cool. And, it introduced some new characters like Tomorrow, and I think the other girl's name was, Rainy, I think it was. And I don't think we ever got the official name for Tarman. And then, of course, the doll has to be called Dollman. That makes the utmost sense in a Kojima game. And I think that there was at one point he did confirm that the game is still set for 2025. They just couldn't show the release date. I was very, very surprised that there was no gameplay shown. I feel like even if it would have been a 10-second clip showing Sam walking in the PS5 Pro enhanced version, I'm surprised that PlayStation didn't push for that. With all this talk about PS5 Pro, like, ask, hey, can we just get a really nice, even if it's just 10 seconds of you talking about, how you guys are using PS5 Pro and what this game is potentially going to look like. I'm surprised that there wasn't even that. It was just really a bunch of cutscenes that obviously looked phenomenal, right? They looked amazing. But, not really too much. I'm a huge Death Stranding fan, so I'm looking forward to this, but I just wish that there was a bit more to see. So let's get right into the State of Play. We started off with Astrobot, who is getting new speedrun levels, and Cameo Bots that's coming out this fall. So we saw like the Helldivers bot and the Stellar Blade one, which I thought was kind of cool. Those are coming as a free update in the fall. The one thing that was interesting was that the director was asked about why Square Enix was missing, and he said that, I don't have it written in front of me verbatim, but he sort of alluded to like he couldn't really answer the question for specific reasons. And I think that to me means that I don't think that there's an issue between PlayStation and Square Enix. I think they're probably planning another free update that's probably revolves around Square Enix, where we're going to see, a collection from that from that company of bots specifically for Square Enix. So maybe Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy and anything and everything else that they have. I think that's probably, what's happening. We got to look at a game called The Midnight Walk, which looked crazy. That's coming to PlayStation 5 and PSVR 2. That looks really cool. Hell Is Us was revealed. This was a game that sort of, had a good moment where a lot of people are, okay, well, this looks kind of interesting. It is also coming to Xbox and PC if you're not a PlayStation owner. It looks kind of cool. It looks like a Souls-like if Kojima was part of the art direction. That's how I feel about it. It looked very I don't know, Kojima-like, the character model to me. It's like a third-person action game. That looks kind of cool. Metro Awakening VR is coming November 7th. A game called Arc Age Chronicles is coming 2025. That is also coming to PC and Xbox. That looks pretty cool. Power World launched on PlayStation 5. So this is not really a secret. It's been hinted at for a little while that Power World was coming to PlayStation 5. The big, I guess, part of this news is that the Japanese version was delayed. The game did release, though, in 68 countries and regions. I think we can all put two pieces together. 1 + 1 = 2. It's more than likely because of the lawsuit that was brought against them in Tokyo District Court. We don't know that definitively. I saw some websites running headlines saying, Power World is missing Japan because of Nintendo's lawsuit. That's still speculation. It's obviously a very educated guess, but I wouldn't run it as a headline because, there is no proof to that. But I think a lot of us can really, safely jump to that conclusion. That's why this is happening, is because of that lawsuit. I think that their lawyers probably told them, it's probably not a good idea that we're getting sued in Japan and we release this game in Japan. And obviously we'll still have to wait and see exactly what happens with that lawsuit. I talked about it last week, so I don't want to rehash it here. But we'll see what happens. Lunar Remastered Collection is coming to all platforms spring 2025. That's really cool. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge got a free update that included the characters Mondo, Gecko, and Mona Lisa. The game is also getting a remix soundtrack with several guest composers. That's pretty cool. Sonic X Shadow Generations is getting post-launch levels based on the Sonic 3 film, and Shadow is being voiced by Keanu Reeves in this sort of voice in the video game version. Look, I maybe I'm alone in this, but I still feel like Keanu Reeves was a bad choice for Shadow, and I instantly felt it when you heard his voice come out of Shadow's character model. He was like, a new, I don't remember what he said, like a new form or something like that. I don't know. It just sounds like Keanu Reeves. Like I'm so tired of these actors getting hired and then brought on, and then it just feels like there's zero effort to try to make the character sound unique. I don't know. Not a fan. I'm a fan of a lot of things that Keanu does, but I wasn't really a fan of him being picked to voice Shadow. I think there was a rumor of what's that actor's name from Star Wars, Hayden, I think it was, or something like that. I forgot his name. I actually think he would have been a better choice. Fantasia Neo Dimension is coming to all platforms December 5th. We got a new look at Dragon Age the Veilguard. That's coming October 31st. That looks really cool. A lot of the previews from media are claiming that they feel like if it sticks to landing, this could be a Game of the Year nominee. But we do all have to acknowledge that previews are very fluffed up by media. So who knows what's going to happen? We'll have to wait and see. Alan Wake 2 got a trailer for their next expansion, which is called The Lake House. That is coming in October. Hitman World of Assassination is coming to PSVR 2 in December. That looks really cool. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered, coming to all platforms on December 10th. This is not a brand new announcement. This unfortunately leaked. I think it was during Comic-Con. I think it was. that they had a statue out with a little placard, and the placard said Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered. So this kind of was leaked by that statue company a little while ago. I don't even understand how you make a mistake like that. So this isn't like a huge surprise. I don't know. I feel like this franchise could have gone. I really wish. I think it deserved like a top to bottom sort of kind of remake instead of just, it looking a little bit nicer. I think actually the Dreamcast version still holds up to this day if you're able to get that emulated and working. I've been trying to find time actually to replay the game. I've been trying to get back to the Dreamcast version myself. Honestly, I think I'd rather just do that than buy this, to be honest with you. I don't think that there's like enough of a change where I'm like, oh my God, yes, I'm going to go out and buy this. Fear the Spotlight is coming October 22nd on all platforms. That looks really neat. Towers of Agasba is hitting early access in November. This game has looked insane since the moment that they showed it. Like if you're into this type of game, this looks pretty phenomenal. Split Screen Support is coming to Lego Fortnite alongside a really ugly Fortnite DualSense that's coming October 3rd. Dynasty Warrior Origins got a date for January 17th to PC, PS5, Xbox Series X. That actually looks really fun. Looks dope. Monster Hunter Wilds got a new trailer and a February 28th release date. That looks really cool. Lego Horizon Adventure is dropping November 14th. And then the game that really wasn't a surprise, Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, drops October 31st. This was leaked by the ESRB because they recently rated the game. If you own the original PS4 version, or if you own the PC version that came out I think it was 4 years ago, you can upgrade for just $10, which is pretty cool. Now, some were upset because the price of the game went up from $19.99 to $39.99 after this announcement. And I had initially sort of defended this decision from PlayStation, and I'll tell you the reason why. Number one, if you wanted this game when it was $20 digital, you would have bought it. Just because now you're able to pay $10 to get a more enhanced version, does it, if that instantly means that, oh wait, now I want to play the game, I feel like there's something wrong with you. That game was in a perfectly fine state for you to buy it and play it. You could have played it on PlayStation 5. It runs at 60 frames per second. I think that you need to ask yourself that question of okay, why am I now wanting to play this game? Is it because it's just the new and shiny thing that PlayStation announced? I feel like you're not really interested in the game. You shouldn't care about this then. And the other way that I look at it is that the $10 upgrade is a really fair one from PlayStation. This game has been, when I first bought the game, I actually still have my copy. I bought it for $5, and I played through it. I did not like it. I am not going to do this $10 upgrade because I didn't like the game. So a shinier version of the game that I didn't like, it doesn't, it's not going to be worth the $10 for me. I don't think so. So to me, I just looked at it as okay, if they're selling this game for $49.99, because that's what it's going to be at retail, you don't want people to be able to instantly access a discounted version of your brand new launch, right? You're launching a game at $50. $50 is the cost of the game that you set. But if you keep the game at $20, then that means that the moment that you launch the game, October 31st, the game is actually $30. There's a $30 version of it, very easily accessible digitally. So to me, I feel like you can't have both. You either want the $10 upgrade for everybody, where PlayStation is going to lose a lot of money. Let's be honest, there's probably a lot of people out there that own that original game that they would have gone out and they would have spent the $50. We all talk a lot of crap about Horizon, but it is one of PlayStation's strongest franchises of the last two generations. I kind of don't get it. I don't understand the fever behind this game. I feel like PlayStation's pushing it very hard, but I don't get it. I don't understand the fever behind this game. I don't understand why people really truly like it. I think it has some of the most boring characters I think I've seen in a game in a while. I thought the gameplay was like, it was kind of okay, but I felt like personally for me, I had to sort of force myself in a sense to finish the game. I didn't even do like any side stuff. I was like, let me just go through the storyline. I just honestly just didn't really care. That was like my main issue with the game, is like so many aspects of this game where I was like, man, I just really don't care about this world. I don't care about these characters. But obviously something about that game has resonated with a lot of people. I'm in the minority. Like, that game has sold very, very well. So this $10 upgrade, it really loses PlayStation a lot of money. Or not loses money, but there's a lot of potential funds being left on the table. They actually gave away this game for free in 2020. During the COVID lockdowns, they had like this, I think it was called like the Play at Home initiative or something like that, like encouraging people to stay home. And part of that initiative, they gave away the game for free. And they did confirm that if you redeem that free copy, you can upgrade for $10. That's something that they didn't have to do, right? And that's something that there's been a problem in the past with PlayStation, with people redeeming games and then upgrades being available and then them finding out that they can't upgrade it. So they've changed that policy. So I don't know, like I can't be so quick to call PlayStation, wow, this is such an anti-consumer move, when making the upgrade $10 is actually a pretty consumer-friendly decision, right? So if I were to upgrade, that makes it $15. The physical versions of these games are still, you can still buy them for $10, $20. You can still find used copies. It's not like overnight the prices went up across, GameStop. I think they still have, if you like shopping at GameStop, I'm not going to stop you, but they still have used copies, the complete edition, up for $20. eBay, you can find them for like 10. Amazon, you won't find any new copies, but Amazon, you can find used copies for 10, 15. So you still do have access to being able to upgrade. Is all PlayStation is doing is like, hey, it doesn't make any sense for us to release a game and then have an easily accessible $30 version. I don't know. Like, I don't think that that's inherently anti-consumer, because when you put it side by side with the fact that the $10 upgrade is very consumer friendly, especially, like I said, the fact that they're doing it for the PC version that just came out. You can upgrade for $10. Like I said, that free version that you redeemed, those aren't decisions of a greedy anti-consumer company. And I don't know. I just personally think it's fair. Like, I understand that there is no new version out there. There's no new copies of this game. I do feel like if there were new copies physical, the MSRP probably would have gone up too. But yeah, I personally think it's understandable, and I don't think there's a reason to be upset, because you can still physically sort of upgrade it. You're kind of only screwed if you don't own this game already and you have a digital only console. But yeah, if this bothers you because you don't own the game, let's be honest. This game never once interested you. Like, stop. I feel like some people just get angry just because they want to get on social media and be part of the conversation just to get angry. Stellar Blade is getting a photo mode and Nier Automata crossover, so that's pretty cool. PlayStation Plus subscribers will be able to download the Dead Space remake, Doki Doki Literature Club, and WWE 2K24. Blood Omen Legacy of Kain and Dino Crisis will be added to the Classic Collection later this year, and The Last of Us Part 1 was added to the PlayStation Plus game catalog. New DualSense controller and covers from the Chroma Collection. This is really funny to see. Because I just laughed when they show the white one. I was like, oh yeah, you could have PlayStation 5, but just a little bit shinier. Like, so dumb to me. I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a huge fan of the covers and controller colors, especially from Xbox, because it feels like Xbox makes a new controller every month. I just look at it as a pure plastic waste. Like, there's no need for us to have so many different colors. I like what Xbox does, where they have their design lab so people can go and customize their colors and stuff like that. I think that's really cool. But flooding retail with like shiny green, shiny blue, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a big fan of that. And I just laugh at this because those three panels combined would never outsell them just selling the gray 30th anniversary panels, which I just still find really funny. That once again just proves my point that you can't get 100% mad at resellers. You also have to criticize PlayStation and say, yeah, why didn't you guys just sell gray console covers and waste your time and resources to make a Chrome collection? We got a trailer, a little bit of a sizzle reel for some new PS5 Pro enhanced games that were announced. Some new additions were Stellar Blade, Dragon's Dogma 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, Dragon Age The Veilguard, First Descendant, Crew Motorfest, Resident Evil Village and 4 Remake, and then F1 24. I'm pretty sure those games on that list, we had never gotten confirmation before that they're PS5 Pro enhanced. We also did get some more media previews. Go check out Digital Foundry, did a really good breakdown if you're interested in the PlayStation 5 Pro, if you're interested in, okay, how much of a difference this is. And it looks like across the board, everyone says the same thing, which is like, yeah, pound for pound, when you compare them to regular PlayStation games, they really do look better, they run better, they play better. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you have the disposable income and you're able to afford it, probably is a worthy bit of an upgrade. To me personally, I'm not sold. I'm not buying this at launch. As I said before, the only games that would change my mind would be Death Stranding 2 and Grand Theft Auto 6. And then the big finisher, Ghost of Yotei. Now, this was not really a surprise. I was expecting, I think a lot of us were expecting it. We have been talking about a Ghost of Tsushima sequel for a while now. This has been rumored for a while. The big surprise, of course, is that this is not Ghost of Tsushima 2. It's called Ghost of Yotei. It takes place in 1603, while the first took place in 1274, so a big jump. It's also set in a new region of Japan, the land surrounding Mount Yotei, a towering peak in the heart of Ezo, an area of Japan known as Hokkaido in present day. A New York Times interview says the announcement of Ghost of Yotei retrospectively changes Ghost of Tsushima from a standalone game to the start of a franchise, which it says will include at least one movie and other spin-offs. This, initially, I was very surprised. When watching the trailer, I think a lot of us in the middle of the trailer thought that was Jin the whole time. Like there was something about that shot with the big brimmed hat and the mask where for a moment I thought, I was like, is that not him? Something feels different. And then of course we finally got the reveal that it is a brand new protagonist, a female protagonist called Atsu. And at first I was baffled. I was surprised. I was like, why would PlayStation abandon the Ghost of Tsushima trademark? They confirmed last week that the original Ghost of Tsushima has sold 13 million copies. Really, really good numbers. And obviously it was a critical commercial success. So why would you sort of do away with that brand name? Like when you think about even like expansions like Miles Morales, they're still called Spider-Man Miles Morales, right? You're still keeping that log line, that header, right? That main title. So at first I was like, okay, why wasn't this called, Ghost of Tsushima Yotei or something like that? But then, you realize like, okay, it kind of doesn't make any sense because this does not take place in Tsushima. So then I started thinking about it more and I realized like, oh, this is actually really smart because what PlayStation has now done is that I think that this game exceeded their expectations. I think they expected it to do well, but it was one of those things where it's like, whoa, we're getting, recognitions and awards for, what we were able to do in the way that we represented Japan in this game. Like, okay, a lot of people are resonating what we were able to create with Ghost of Tsushima. And I think that they looked at this and said to themselves, like, this could be our Assassin's Creed. This could be our anthology series. And I think it's such a really smart play to sort of make the brand Ghost of instead of Ghost of Tsushima. So right now we have Ghost of Tsushima, we have Ghost of Yote, and what I was speculating was like one day they could do Ghost of Cairo, go to a completely different region, and it just makes sense. It not be something that's like completely surprising. And I think that this is one of those plays where I think companies need to do a better job of trusting the process of putting the resources in play to replicate the magic that a company like Sucker Punch is able to bring. And by that, what I mean is either building a smaller studio to start work on another game, or finding a third-party publisher that's overseen by key personnel at Sucker Punch in order to try to accelerate the releases of these video games. So it's not a new one every 5-6 years or something like that. Maybe it's a little bit shorter. Or maybe you're working on like a shorter sort of expansion to some of these games. But yeah, I think it's really cool. Like you can now do an anime, but it's Ghost of, China or something like that, some Chinese region. I don't know. And then be able to pick up and just tell a really unique story of, vengeance or revenge from that region and that time period. Very close, once again, to what we see from Assassin's Creed, but obviously keep this one still very grounded, very, very historical, not something where the Pope has magic powers, kind of stuff. But yeah, once you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, this actually makes a lot of sense, to do it this way, where, especially now, because it remains in Japan, it remains very familiar. It takes place, centuries after the first one. So obviously you have access to probably more advanced technology at that time and stuff like that. They showed firearms in the trailer. So yeah, I think everything about this decision, I was like, oh yeah, a lot of this just makes a lot of sense. I really like it. Now, of course, there was a lot of controversy surrounding the fact that it's a female protagonist. The actress who is voicing Atsu is Erika Ishii, who also voices Apex Legends Valkyrie. And yeah, I mean, the moment that we saw that shot and I saw it was a female, I kind of made a joke of just like, oh man, that's it. Sorry, the everything is woke crowd. Looks like you guys are not going to be able to play this, Ghost of Woke game. Sorry about that. And something I think really interesting happened with this announcement that I realized, which is this: a lot of these conversations take place on Twitter. And what I noticed was that, I mean, it's not like a revelation, like I just noticed this, but the people who are most talking about, oh, this is woke. Oh my God, I can't play this because it's a female. A lot of that is really being amplified by people who find the notion of that thought process ridiculous, right? So you're a person that has agreed that this is just dumb. Like, who cares? Like, it's a female lead. She looks fucking badass. Like, that's all that matters. She looks like a super badass character. Who cares that the voice actor is, I believe they're gender fluid. I think they go by they, them. I'm not 100% sure. Who gives a flying fuck, right? The majority of us don't care. But what's weird about this is that the majority of us care enough to like talk about it. And they're the ones that are coming forward and saying, oh, everything is woke now. Look, there's a female lead. I've said this before, and it's funny because Roger Clark, who voices Arthur Morgan, had tweeted about this, which is the bulk of these conversations, the bulk of the attention that is paid to these moments is really made by people that have large Twitter accounts that are on the right side of this conversation, that agree that this is ridiculous, but they can't shut up about it. They can't retweet other people. They can't retweet their clips. I have to see everything I know about Asmongold. has been shown to me against my will. I do not want to know anything about this man. I just don't get it. I don't understand why anyone watches this guy. This guy who lives in self-admitted filth, who I once saw a clip of him drinking water, couldn't stand the taste, and then drank soda. I just don't. I don't understand what's happening there. I don't want to know anything about this person who sat there, reacted, and said, "Oh yeah, of course I want to play as a female samurai. That makes sense." Like, who gives a fuck about this stupid ass opinion that this guy is putting out there? It's a dumb opinion. It's a shitty take. It's a lowbrow basement dwelling take, and you guys are the ones that are amplifying it. So it's true what Roger Clark put out there, which is like, yeah, the bulk of this conversation about, oh, there's a female protagonist, everything is woke, is almost like you guys preempting the conversation. And even me, myself, even me making that joke of like, oh, that's it, it's woke, guess you guys aren't playing it. It's like we're sort of setting the table for everyone else before it even happens, you know? And I think that a lot of people think that they're doing the right thing. They think that this is helping. They think that retweeting, what's his name, Asmongold, and all these other creators that talk about this type of stuff, they think that they're doing them a service or our industry a service by pointing out the absurdity, but you're not. All you're doing is increasing the engagement. I saw a tweet recently where someone was retweeting like some sort of like an Xbox podcast, and it was like a really stupid, dumb conversation about the PlayStation 5 Pro. It was just dumb. It was just a dumb take. And they specifically wrote, we need more intelligent conversations in podcasts, blah, blah, blah. And I replied and I said, you're complaining about a problem by being part of the problem because you're sharing this conversation. You're giving them more engagement instead of retweeting conversations that you think are intelligent or better, right? Or smarter or better discourse. You're tweeting a negative instead of tweeting the positive while also complaining about the negative thing that you just tweeted. It just doesn't make any sense, and people just kind of can't help themselves. Look, I thought the state of play was fine. I don't think there was anything that was super crazy. I think PlayStation has done a great job so far of really setting expectations for state of play, where I don't think you should ever go into and think you're going to see like, the next 3 years of PlayStation. I still think that PlayStation still has this problem though, where Xbox, even though Xbox has struggled with delivering games, at least they've shown like a really good roadmap for what the next year to 2 years is looking like. And I'm not liking how closely PlayStation is holding their announcements to their chest. Maybe it's because of this live service play. We don't really know exactly what's going on with a lot of their other single player stuff. There are rumors right now that in December we're going to see another showcase from them. I mean, who knows what could happen. But yeah, I mean, once you really break this all down, this entire state of play, there was really only, kind of only one game shown, which is Ghost of Yotei. I don't really count Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. That's not really what I would consider a new game. But the game looks pretty cool regardless. So that comes out 2025. This week's hot releases, we have Starfield Shattered Space coming to Xbox and PC. Zoocosis is coming to PC also on September 30th. October 3rd is Metal Hellsinger VR, PC, PS5, PSVR VR 2. October 4th, we have SpongeBob SquarePants, the Patrick Star game, coming to all platforms. And then finally, the Until Dawn remake coming to PC and PS5 on October 4th. It's time for us to wrap it up. These are the stories that we didn't have time to get to. Following the release of Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, a Capcom survey has asked players if they want other franchises to get the same treatment. Options available to respondents included Lost Planet, Devil May Cry, Power Stone, Resident Evil, Onimusha, Darkstalkers, and Okami. There are a few on this list that I think would be instant successes. I think Okami would do really, really well in the current climate. Devil May Cry, I've said before, that first game should absolutely be remade. Power Stone, I think, is an interesting one. I actually don't think that game would do really well. I think you can reboot Power Stone, but I don't think you can remake Power Stone. I just don't think it would work very well. But I think there's enough there that you can look into rebooting it. Lost Planet, I think, is another one that would be interesting to look at, but I don't think the Lost Planet IP would do very well. But the idea of Lost Planet, I think, would be kind of interesting. California has introduced a new state law that will force digital storefronts to admit to players that they are simply buying a license for a digital product rather than owning the product. It will forbid digital storefronts from using terms like buy unless customers are explicitly warned that they're paying for a license to a game which may expire at any time. Games that are free to download or games that include an offline mode that will allow the game to run without a constant connection to the internet are exempt from the law. This is obviously a step in the right direction. I personally still don't think it's enough, but I think it's a step in the right direction. The reason why it's not enough is that this still means that you can sell a product. Yeah, I have to warn you, like, oh, this is a license. You don't actually own it, blah, 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 blah. I don't think there's going to deter many sales, to be honest with you. I think the majority of people that are buying digital are already, I can't say the majority, but I'll say a good chunk are aware that they don't really own it. They don't care. And the reason why they don't care is because they've never had a game taken away from them. The moment that happens, I think that's when everything changes. But I think there's a lot of people out there that, we do live in that moment in this world where a lot of people don't care about other people, where it's really kind of a little bit greedy in that sense, where it's like, I don't care about this problem because it's never affected me. I've never had a game taken away from me. I don't care, right? That tune would change if a game was ever taken away from somebody. And I think one of the closest versions of that would have been something like what Konami did with PT, for example, where it was basically yeeted off of everyone's PlayStations and he couldn't transfer it and stuff like that. This doesn't solve that problem because this means that I can, as long as I put that warning, I can still take the game away from you. I think that's the next step, is there needs to be some sort of a guarantee with a product where if you remove a game in a certain period of time or digital media, right, because this also applies to films and books, that I'm owed a refund. I think that should be part of this process, hopefully in the future. But I think that this is definitely a move in the right direction. It is only happening in one state right now. It's only in California, but hopefully this is something that we see more of throughout the United States. The day before, developers have announced Fantastic 2.0 alongside a game called Escape Factory, which they launched a Kickstarter for, claiming they need the goal to be met or the company will have to shut down again. One Twitter user by the name of Ocular Malice data mined a demo they released and claimed that the game's networking, lobby, and matchmaking mechanics are all examples of Unity demo code that's typically used by those learning to develop games. This was funny because back when I was covering the day before, I have a few videos on the day before on the channel. I had set an alert for their YouTube channel. So I was taking a walk and all of a sudden I get an alert on my phone that Fantastic posted a new video. And I'm in my head, I'm like, what the hell's Fantastic? What is this? I had completely forgotten about this company. I erased their name from my memory. And I click, and as I'm watching the trailer, I'm like, what the hell is Fantastic? And then it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that these are the day before guys. I can't believe they're trying to make another video game. And so far, the Kickstarter, as of this recording, has 35 backers, $2,213. So there are at least 35 idiots in the world. The goal is 15,000. Now, what was interesting is that someone had redeemed the biggest offer for, it was $9,376 US dollars was the biggest sort of redemption reward. And it was redeemed. It put them like a couple thousand away from meeting their goal. And I instantly said, no, there's just no way. No one, I know, look, we live in a world with a lot of idiots. There's no way someone's that stupid to give this company over $9,000. And I was like, they probably just gave it to themselves, some sort of, I forgot what it's called. There's a specific name for it, but it's like you're boosting your own project. I don't remember the name of it. But that tiers has actually been is gone. The pledge is now gone, so they're back down to like $2,000. Like, look, if you give these people a penny, you're an absolute moron. Like you could do whatever you want with your money. You're trying to find a creative new way to lose it, knock yourself out. But all of us are still going to stand on the sideline and make fun of these guys. The balls on them. I mean, the balls on them to think that this was going to work. I think it's just so spectacularly stupid. And yes, I can't wait to watch you guys fail again. And finally, Overwatch announced a collaboration with My Hero Academia. Reinhardt as All Might, Tracer as Izuku Midoriya. I'm probably going to butcher these. I'm sorry. I'm going to be honest. I've never seen this show. Reaper as Tomuda Shigaraki. Kiriko as Himiko Toga. And Juno as Ochako Uraraka. I wanted to talk about this, wrap it up, because I want to go on a bit of a mini rant with Overwatch 2, which, two things happen with this announcement. Number one is people are upset at the same people getting the same skins. They're also upset that Juno got a legendary special skin before Venture. Venture came out like months ago. And I think right now Overwatch definitely is, without a doubt, it's on the decline. It's undoubtedly on the decline. It's going to continue to decline in December when Marvel Rivals comes out. At first, I thought to myself, when Marvel Rivals was first announced, I thought, I think it'll do well, but I don't think it's going to siphon too much. I now think that it will actually siphon a good chunk of Overwatch players. I think there's a lot of Overwatch players that not only desire something new, they want something different, they want something fresh. And Overwatch, unfortunately, isn't delivering it anymore because you can clearly tell that this company has been slashed. Like, their budget has been cut drastically. It's pretty insane to see what's happened to this company. The cinematics team was completely gutted. Anytime there's a cinematic now, it's only to sell skins. It looks like special events were gutted. There are no special modes anymore. Events are really built around skins now. That's really the event. The event is, I have a new gun skin to sell you. I have a new Reinhardt axe to sell you. I have a new skin to sell you. I have a new pack of skins to sell you. Here's the World of Warcraft collaboration. Hey, is there a special addition to the Blizzard World map or something cool there or some cool new mode? Nope. The event is the skins. The event is me selling you guys skins. So it's really unfortunate what happens to this team. I really would wish that Microsoft would step in and say, hey, let's try to give these guys more resources, some of their resources back. If this continues, I think more and more people are going to drop because it's really not much of an interest to come back to the game when all of your events are just surrounding, hey, please spend more money. Shout out of the week goes out to Game Science. Black Myth Wukong, get ready for this. I hope you're sitting down. Has sold over 20 million copies in its first month. If that doesn't sound insane, I'm going to put it in perspective for you guys. Hogwarts Legacy was the best-selling game in 2023. It broke a long-standing streak held by Call of Duty. It took them 10 months to reach 22 million copies. I'm going to repeat that. It took Hogwarts Legacy 10 months to reach 22 million copies. Black Myth Wukong sold over 20 million copies. That means by the end of the year, they're going to beat Hogwarts Legacy entire yearly run because it released in February, so it was 10 months it was on the market. By January, I think Hogwarts Legacy had sold 24 million. It's possible that they can reach 24 million copies by the end of the year. China really came out and showed up for this game because, look, let's be honest, the bulk of these purchases are not happening in anywhere outside of China. That's nothing short of phenomenal and has to be commended and celebrated. That's amazing. This is a huge boost to the gaming scene in China. This really is like the head of the parade, like breaking down the walls of, I think this is the game that makes consumers a lot more receptive to a Chinese developed game. And we're seeing a lot of great stuff. I just talked earlier about Fragpunk, and we're just seeing a lot of great stuff from Chinese teams. So really big shout out to Game Science. Make sure to subscribe to Camp Kojo, your favorite podcast platform, so you can listen to it on the go. And if you already are, please leave us a review. It helps more than you know it. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Please follow us on Twitter and YouTube. Once again, I'm Joel, and I will see you all next week.